Hello, beautiful viewers. Tom South through the cosmos. Prepare to indulge in experiencing sheer bliss, because today, under my tutelage, you will learn how to assemble a 5-shelf plastic storage unit. So essentially, this video is a tutorial for how to construct your own shelving storage unit that you procured from a retail store. Without further ado, without further procrastination, let's allow the building process to commence. Bear with me, it will only take me billions of picoseconds to remove the shelves from their innate default packaging. Bear with me. I'm going to ravage the box. Alright, off the get-go we have a myriad of vertical support beams. They're akin to columns, and we also have 5 shelves. I need to assemble everything. It's pivotal that I utilize what I have. I do not want it to be relegated to a storage unit. Products are meant to be leveraged. I will utilize them to their fullest capabilities. I will abstain from consigning them to a storage unit. Let's begin building the shelves. This will be the foundation for our shelving unit. You just need to lay it flat on the ground and then subsequently insert these vertical support beams into their corresponding spots that are located in the various corners of the shelf. This is comprised of plastic. It's easy to lift. The first shelf is always a cornerstone of the shelving unit. It lays a foundation for the rest of the shelves to be built upon. Push them down, make sure that these support beams are firmly in place. I'm not sure exactly what you would call them. Are they considered columns or support beams? Who knows? I'm not well acclimated with shelving terminology, or terminology in the context of furniture. Alrighty, after everything has been essentially firmly secured and nearly locked into place, then you could press onward. You can utilize the next shelving unit, or you could leverage your ingenuity and common sense to continue the process. Let's reconvene the process. Make sure that your shelves are firmly secured. Make sure that they're pushed into the support beams. You do not want to compromise the integrity of your shelf. You want it to be ideally firm and secure. So after placing the vertical support beams into the shelves' ample holes, your shelf is nearly ready to be utilized. The shelf stands about 74.2 inches tall. With the height of the shelf, you may ask, I believe it's about 6 foot 2.5 inches tall, because there's 12 inches in a foot, and if you do the math, 74.5 divided by 12 should be equivalent to 6.25. Actually, no, I made a blunder. Actually, No, it actually would be equivalent. It wouldn't be 6.25. It'd be slightly less than 6.25. But regardless, if you do 6 times 12, you arrive at 72, which is equivalent to 6 feet. And then if you add the additional 2.5 inches, it's equivalent to 74.4 inches. But no, if you do 74.5 divided by 12, it's not 6.25. There's an asinine blunder on my behalf. It's slightly less than 6.25, but I don't need to notify you of the exact answer. It's just irrelevant at this point. It's trivial. I'm just curious what 2 divided by 12 is off the top of my head. It's likely closer to around 16. That's what I would presume. What is it though? Is it between 12 or 16? That's what I'm thinking. If I could write out the equation by hand, I could solve it in a heartbeat. I'm just trying to do it in my head. You know, I don't need to utilize a computer to elicit the answer or a piece of paper to write out the equation. I'm just going to think about it until the answer dawns on me. No, it must be higher than 8. Because 8 times 12, I believe that's 96. Hmm. Is it 8.333? 8.333 is a yeah. Actually, let me just revamp that. 112 is equivalent to, I believe, 8.333. Is that correct? So let's figure out the exact equation real briefly. So like I said, if you do 74.5 divided by 12, then you get 6.16666. Now, is that correct? Or did I make a blunder? No, if I made a blunder, it should be close. So let's just verify it now. 74.5 divided by 12. So I originally said 6. I said 6 point. What I say? 16666, and that goes on indefinitely. Oh no, I made a blunder. No, it's actually equivalent to 6.208333. And didn't I initially say that 1/12 is equivalent to 8.33%? Let's verify that. Oh, I did. So how did I make a blunder? Oh yeah, because I didn't factor in the 0.5. That's why. No, because if you revamp the equation, if you do 74 divided by 12, it should be equivalent to 16. It should be equivalent to 6.1666666. Yeah, so I was correct. I didn't factor in the 0.5, but if you factor in the 0.5, then you have to add on half of 8.333. And if you add that on, it should be an additional, 4.15? And subsequently, you would arrive at 6.28333. So yeah, my math was correct. I just didn't tack on that 0.5. I may have stated 0.5, but I never considered it in my head amid computing 74 divided by 12. So yeah, you can utilize your mind to prompt answers without writing anything down on a piece of paper. People shouldn't underestimate their ingenuity. I mean, obviously, it's more inefficient. It's not efficacious to do it manually or to do it without the suggested formula, but it can be done. I mean, there's a myriad of ways to approach a math problem, but I digress. So getting back to the shelving unit, I want to utilize it to maximum capacity. It can store a myriad of items. On here, I have a plethora of action figures that I would like to flaunt on the shelf. This will likely be relegated to the corner of the room I presently reside within. This is how an action figure will look on the shelf. Is a shelf the epitome of perfection? Is it the embodiment of resounding perfection? I think it is. I'm an avid plastic lover. I love plastic. It's non-biodegradable, so it's not preordained to disintegrate in the near future. At least this particular plastic isn't, although there are other types of plastics that are derived from vegetables that have a shorter product life cycle and that will succumb to disintegration in the pending years. So here's how Michelangelo looks on the shelf. The process is simple. Take your various shelves and place your support beams into their corresponding holes on the shelves, and make sure everything is solidified. Lay a shelf on the ground. Secure the support beams in their corresponding appropriate spots. And then you can amplify the height of your shelf by stacking layers of shelves on top of one another. I mean, it's simple. This process does not require anything outside the scope of common sense. There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to do it. And you could also do math in your head. You don't need to write down the formula on paper. You could just utilize your mind. You could actually do it blindfolded. So I was correct. I thought I made a blunder earlier because I initially said was 74 divided by 12 was equivalent to 16 point. No, I said it was equivalent to 6.166666, and then I inserted the height of the shelf, which was 74.5. I forgot to factor in the additional 0.5, and then it elicited the 6.20A333333. So I forgot to factor in the 0.5. But if you factor in the 0.5, you just add the additional 0.0, what is it? The additional 0.04115 to the equation, and it would draw forth the answer, which begets 6.20A3333. I need to hone my math skills so that I could enhance my processing speed. I usually utilize a calculator to compute equations, but I don't need to. I prefer to utilize my mind, but I'm typically always pressed for time and I need to complete my assignments at an expeditious rate. I'm pursuing my DBA in marketing, and it typically doesn't require intense mathematics, so I primarily write. I perpetually write, but I'm glad to know that I can still do math in my head. I may not be as competent as I used to be in terms of my mathematics, but I can definitely hone them, and perhaps understand the different facets of math meticulously in depth when time permits, but I'm constantly working, so I cannot afford to relegate my time to learning about irrelevant math equations that have no pragmatic use. But anyways, I digress. Let's get back on topic. I recommend, advocate, and endorse procuring these shelves if you can afford to do so. They're devoid of plastic filling on the bottom, as you can blatantly see. What else? These shelving units are not likely to wane. They're not easy to ravage. So you'll likely be able to perpetually retain this shelving unit until the end of time. What else? I guess that's about it. I don't need to be redundant. I don't need to incessantly repeat myself. I've showcased visually how to construct the shelf. I've elucidated how to construct the shelf, and I have proven to myself that I can still utilize my mind to compute mass equations without resorting to writing anything down on paper, or without resorting to utilizing a calculator to compute the equation for me. So I definitely know I need to hone my math skills, and it would be an asset to increase my processing speed in the context of computed math equations in my head. But yet again, even if I do exponentially amplify my processing speed in the context of computing math equations in my head, I used to strive to solve math problems in my head when I was striving to keep my mind entertained and to keep my mind engrossed in something fascinating. But if I do significantly amplify my processing speed to be able to perhaps one day do perform calculus equations without the usage of the computer in any aspect, then it still would serve no pragmatic use or pragmatic value. I haven't studied calculus fully in depth. I've completed a college algebra course in conjunction with a statistics course amid pursuing my undergraduate degree, but I'm interested in one day studying calculus in depth. But right now I need to prioritize gaining subsistence and earning my doctorate. I need to earn a terminal degree so I have the credentials to teach graduate courses in marketing. Having an MBA in marketing does not render you eligible to teach graduate courses in marketing. So this is my fourth and final degree I'm pursuing. Once I've finished earning my doctorate, once I build up some wealth, and maybe one day I'll have the luxury to self-educate myself about calculus in depth, I would love to meticulously study it, but now is not the appropriate time. I need to prioritize generating wealth and increasing my standard of living so that I'm not relegated to a lifestyle perpetually being destituted. When you're a student, you're indebted, you're laden with student loans, you forgo the opportunity to work full time as a result of having to complete a copious amount of assignments in a short period of time. So it is a burdensome endeavor to pursue in the short haul, but in the long haul, hopefully it will allow you to amass more wealth if you're not self-employed than you otherwise would have been able to if you work for an employer. I would love to be self-sufficient amid being self-employed, but earning passive income through advertising revenue is a volatile job. Your product is out of your control. When you upload your videos onto someone else's domain, they're subject to being terminated at the whim of a bureaucrat, so you cannot preside over your products. If you want to host your own videos onto your own website, that requires an enormous investment. You can embed them on your own website, but if you want to upload them onto your own website, you need to have considerable wealth to be able to afford to do that. So it's not affordable. So a lot of the times you need to wind up working with someone else and saving your wealth, building wealth, and then you could invest it into your own enterprises, into your own endeavors, and into your higher aspirations. I mean, I have some inventions that I would like to see brought to fruition, and I was contemplating about going to a prototype development firm, but it just doesn't make any sense at this point because I do not have the money to finance hiring a patent attorney. Furthermore, going to various corporations and imploring them to manufacture my products so I could reap royalty payments is highly time consuming. It may be more efficient for me to work for something I'm guaranteed to get paid for in the short haul than for me to pursue something that I'm not guaranteed to generate any revenue for in the short haul. But I guess those ideas will have to be relegated to the back burner and be pursued in the coming years rather than in the imminent future. But it's just a real shame and a real pity. I would love to license out my intellectual capital or my intellectual properties to corporations that have the capabilities and the resources to mass produce them. But as I said earlier, I need to go to a prototype development firm first, have them sign a non-disclosure agreement, then I need to hire a patent attorney, have them file a patent on my behalf. Then the subsequent step would involve going to corporations and imploring them to buy the license for my product so I could collect royalty payments, and I could outsource the distribution and manufacturing responsibilities to them. Then they could sell the product to wholesalers and or distributors, and the distributors could sell it to retailers. But if they have horizontal or vertical integration, and they have competitive advantages, which would render it more advantageous for them to acquire my invention is so on their store shelves. But before I can do anything, I can't get ahead of myself. I need to finish my doctoral program, earn the terminal degree, work for someone else, build up some wealth, and then once I have subsistence, once I could afford to be financially stable without being confined to perpetual work for someone else to feed myself, then I could invest my money into my own creative endeavors and into my own enterprises. But until then, I'll have to wait. I'll have to abstain from doing what I love just to be able to have a viable source of income that's not subject to volatility. Does that make any sense? So I'm done ranting, I'm not done ranting and raving. I'm done ranting, raving, and pontificating. I'm sweating to death, I'm dehydrated. I need to intake more nutrients. I need to acquire nourishment. It's pivotal for my body. My organs are on the cusp of shutting down at the moment. Well, perhaps I'm exaggerating a little bit to embellish this video, but I do need to eat. It is imperative in all facets that I retain my weight and I do not become anorexic. Fortunately, I'm gaunt. I'm dainty. I need to build up muscle mass. I need to acquire physical prowess. I need to be reinvigorated. So I yearn to pursue my higher aspirations, but they'll have to wait until I can afford to do so, until I have financial stability, until I'm not destituted anymore, and until I can afford to finance a mortgage for my own one-bedroom condo. But at the moment, I need to prioritize finishing school, getting out of debt, and generating some income so that I could afford to be self-sufficient. Because the goal is to not work for an employer for the rest of my finite life. I want to be able to pursue my own ambitions, that entail seeing my inventions, seeing my intellectual properties manifest into reality, and seeing them be sold via Amazon or Walmart. I definitely think it's feasible and possible and a viable possibility, but for that prospect to be brought to fruition, I need to take the necessary measures to allow me to prompt that opportunity within my life. Right now I can't, because I cannot afford to do so. You need to have wealth, you need to have financial assets, you need to have monetary assets to speak to a patent attorney. If you want to go to a prototype development firm, it requires an investment on your behalf monetarily. So it is what it is. There's nothing I can do except exude maximum effort and hope for the best, and that's all you can do in life. You can strive to be all you can be, but there's an exorbitant amount of external factors out of your control, and if possessing wealth is one of the barriers to entry that you need to overcome before you can dabble into this industry, then you have to comply with the demands of the market. The patent attorneys need to generate wealth, the prototype development firms, they need to generate wealth, the retailers, manufacturers, distributors, they need to take a share of the profits. So I hope that my endeavors will be fruitful and lucrative, but only time will tell. I have no idea what will transpire in the future. The future is an enigma. I'm done ranting. I've prolonged this video, but I have assembled a shelf. Here's what it looks like. This shelving unit is comprised of 5 shelves. It can easily be lifted. It's not cumbersome to lift. It's relatively light. If you're feeble, you may not want to lift it. You could risk straining your back, especially if you lean it against your back, which I would deem unwise, but this is easily transportable. Now when I transverse through this room, I'll be able to see the shelf and subsequently see the items that are preordained to be placed and flaunted onto the shelf. So I'm contemplating about what items I'll place onto the shelf. Perhaps I'll place Halo 3 action figures onto the shelf. They'll be relegated to these various shelves, and they will look like a prodigious, stellar, stupendous collection when consolidated together onto the shelves. So that's everything. I hope that you found this tutorial video to be insightful and enthralling. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Goodbye.